Am I on? Am I streaming?
Hard Rock.
Title of your sex tape? Go further away? All right.
Hard Rock.
That's how we got from title of your sex tape to stories about my daughter. And yep, that might land her in therapy.
Hard Rock.
Can't even win like on Mario Brothers 3.
Hard Rock.
You start going for therapy and you walk into your therapist's office and you start unloading all this nonsense about stuff that your dad did to you, and your therapist is going to look right at you and be like, will you get the f*** out of my office?
Hard Rock.
A good example of exactly how a tangent forms.
Hard Rock.
Did I freeze? Hello?
Hard Rock.
You know, it's not free lines of cocaine good.
Hard Rock.
Which has been famously dubbed Crookhaven.
Hard Rock.
And this is probably going to sound stupid out of context.
Hard Rock.
But I am just segueing off a cliff here.
Hard Rock Lunchbox.
Greetings and salutations. It is time for yet another edition of the Hard Rock Lunchbox, and of course the top 20. That is where we come in right now. How's it going, everybody? Everybody doing all right? It is a absolutely beautiful, crystal clear day here in the Northeast. It's a beautiful November 2nd. We made it. We made it. I guess. I don't really know. Did we make it? Maybe. I don't know. I can't tell. My camera is acting weird again. It's using AI, and I don't know. Not doing the job I wanted to do currently, so I'm not sure what to make of that. Do I get closer? Would that help it? Would I get further away? That probably doesn't help anything, but I don't know. I'll go further away. How's that? Oh, that looks better. Yeah. All right. I'll just go further away. Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Title of your sex tape? Go further away? All right. It's so funny to be rewatching Brooklyn Nine-Nine with my daughter, because if you don't know, if you've never met Charlotte, but you have watched Modern Family and you have watched Brooklyn Nine-Nine, just rest assured that Charlotte is somewhere firmly between Detective Amy Santiago and Alex Dunphy. She exhibits so many qualities of these two very capable women, but kind of on the nerdy side. We were watching the one where Jake goes back to his high school reunion. I'm not going to ruin anything because I'm not a spoiler, but goes back to his high school reunion. He has to kind of figure something out, and Amy ends up in the science lab, and she it's not her. One of the projects get damaged, and she panics and freaks out. She looks at it. She's like, "Oh, it's the Krebs cycle. Like, I got this." And then she starts slow talking to Jake, so she has enough time to fix it because she wants to redo her science project from high school. And dude, if that is not Charlotte to a T, I don't know who is. Literally, Charlotte could just go on there and be Detective Amy Santiago or Alex Dunphy easily, and I don't even know that I would know the difference, to be perfectly honest with you, but it's neither here nor there. So yeah, that's how we got from title of your sex tape to stories about my daughter, and yep, that might land her in therapy, probably would land me in therapy too. That's cool. I've got nothing planned for the next 40 years. I have joked with Charlotte for ages about what she does. So Charlotte's got a pretty good life, I think. And she's got loving parents, she's got a loving family. She really has not a lot to rebel against, and I think that is the rub. Because when you don't have stuff to rebel about, you have to start making stuff to rebel. If anybody's ever seen Louis C.K.'s bit about his young daughter that just wants to be mad, and he's trying to make her waffles and stuff, and she's like, I don't know which piece to eat, and he's just like, just make a list of pros and cons of each piece and we'll go over it. You're not being very nice, but I love you very much, that kind of stuff. So Charlotte, I feel doesn't have a lot to rebel about. So what she does do, and she'll complain about me and be like, and my dad never makes time to or not that never makes time, my dad can't even win on Mario Brothers 3, that kind of stuff. That's literally what she's got to complain about. And I remember telling her one time, and I've told her repeatedly, but telling her the one time I was like, listen, just it's going to be really funny when you're like in your mid-30s and you start going to, for therapy, which I think is probably important for everybody. But like, you start going for therapy and you walk into your therapist's office and you start unloading all this nonsense about stuff that your dad did to you, and your therapist is going to look right at you and be like, will you get the fuck out of my office so I have room for people with a real problem? And I just told her, I was like, just make sure you call me right after that happens, because I just want to know that I was like right one time. But I do tell the kids all the time. Like, I feel like there's a lot of talk about like childhood adversity scores and stuff, and you probably heard a lot about CPTSD, like childhood post-traumatic stress. And these are all real things, right? Like, anybody that's ever been a child and survived has grown up and has these experiences and has some of these problems. But I've always told the kids, like, I feel like they all got like a good 10, somewhere between 5 and 10 with me. And I'm allowing the 5 to 10 because there's 5 that I definitely know. Like, as a parent, like, I'm a pretty good parent, but like, I am not perfect. And I don't even know that being a perfect parent would be necessarily a good thing, right? Like, because without the ability to sort of understand adversity, even from loved ones, like, how can you possibly expect to go through the rest of your life, like, and exist in relationships, both romantic and, non-romantic, but like also with other people? Like, you can't expect to make your way from 0 to, life expectancy is now like 82 or whatever, but like, you can't expect to make your way from 0 to 90 without some serious conflict from people that are really close to you, and your inability to handle those things, will be a bad thing for you, in my opinion. So, I don't necessarily take issue with the fact that, like, I'm not and was not a perfect parent. I did my best, and I'm doing my best, and I continue to always do that, and that's the value I try and instill in them. But I do think that there's probably a solid 5 to 10 things that all of them are really going to have a legitimate beef with, except for Charlotte, who's probably got -4 at best, honestly, because she just lives such a charmed life. It's just ridiculous. I didn't come here to talk about any of that. It just struck me as funny, and it's a good example of exactly how a tangent forms, because I said something about your sex tape, and I made it all the way to therapy for my kids, and that is pretty impressive. And really, isn't that why we all tune in to the Top 20? Because I know it's why I do, and I'm also agreed to be here for every Thursday for the rest of my life, and that's probably more the reason. I'm so tired already, and the show's only been on for, well, I was going to say it's been on for like 9 minutes, but I started late, so it's probably only like 7 minutes, and that's fine. What's everybody doing in the chat? Chat's quiet. Am I on? Am I streaming? I don't like when the chat's this quiet. Chat makes me nervous. Man, chat's light today. Okay, well, hopefully I'm in there. Unless I froze. Maybe I froze. Did I freeze? Hello? Could be one of those things like fruit. Free. Which is actually how I told Charlotte to get out of any class during the virtual era of COVID. She's just like, yeah. Yeah, all right, well, okay. Yeah, all right, well, no response from the chat, so either the chat is dead or I am. Either way, we're moving on and moving over, because it is time for housekeeping, ladies and gentlemen. There is a brand new episode of the Top 20 out. I caught the beginning of it this morning. The bumpers really are still my favorite part. I love the fact that I completely shit on Amityville Music Hall within the first 3 seconds of my show, as it should be by all shows, in my opinion. But that's just me currently. It is life, the job, and I talk about how I just fail at it miserably. I also talk about how I've gone past puberty. That's important. I talk about being in a well-rehearsed band, biggest issues with venues currently, in my opinion. And, go check it out. Give it a like, give it a comment if you are so inclined. That'll be cool. And if you are also so inclined, while you're over on Stranger Hit TV, the full interview with Shaylee Bourget is out. He's basically Dayshell. And it's the interview, the Bacon is My Podcast interview that I sat in, and I sat in for Jimmy for. So it's just me and Mikey on there. I meant to give it a listen. I have not been able to, because I actually wanted to hear the discussions and drinks episode, so I actually listened to that briefly this morning. I wanted to hear about what Mike and Jimmy thought about the Bacon is My Passion show, because I thought it was very good. A lot of people I talked to thought it was very good, but I realized it was a very interesting sort of dynamic going on that a lot of people maybe don't even realize. But Jimmy talks about it during the discussions and drinks, so give that a listen. Specifically, the part I was interested in is that Jimmy pointed out to me before he went on that it was his first show in 20 years. And that is calculating back through Craving Strange all the way to Sickest Monday. So basically, like, the first time you're up on stage with a new project. And he was saying that even Crash Transit was an existing band, so that wasn't really the same thing. This is literally the first time. And I was thinking about it while he was telling me, and I was trying to calculate it back out. And it really, for me, would have been about the same time in 2002 when I formed G Davy. I guess it was like 2002. It was really around the end of 2003 where we did our first show. And our first show was it was actually a really big show because we just weren't playing. In fact, it's funny. I'll finish that thought. Our first show was at the Downtown, which was in Farmingdale somewhere. I couldn't even tell you where it is or where it was anymore. Things have just changed so much. But the Downtown was an awesome place to see a venue, to see a show. It was a great venue. Definitely, for me, it rivaled the stuff like Revolution, or what Revolution would become, and rivaled like the Crazy Donkey. I loved the Downtown. I thought it was just fantastic. I used to go see like Nationals play there and stuff like that. Like I had seen my friends in KHC when they were on tour with Mindless Self-Indulgence there, and it was just such a fantastic show. Anyway, but it was actually funny because the reason it was such a big deal that we were doing a show, and this is probably going to sound stupid out of context, but isn't that, like, the whole show sounds stupid out of context. The whole show sounds stupid in context, but this is an out of context moment. The reason I had formed G Davy at all was solely to write and record and release material. And this was 2002. Like, I had spent so much time playing so many shows. We had already toured. I'd already done my time with Narcotic Gypsy. I'd already been on Ozfest. I'd already done all of that stuff and toured, North America and Canada and U.S. and Canada. So I'd done a lot already, and I was, frankly, I was a little tired from it. The whole demise of Narcotic Gypsy had absolutely left a horrendous taste in my mouth. The way it was handled, and then the way Sufferful ended, which was the side project I was in at the same time, the way that ended was also just a horrendous experience. So I just didn't want to do that anymore. So myself and my best friend at the time, and godfather to my daughter, and bass player, we just got together and started like recording stuff, and then we would play with different musicians from time to time. Similar, funny enough, to the way Bacon is My Passion works. But the reason I bring it up, because it's funny, and I don't think I'll ever forget that, at the time, G Davy had done enough, and we had enough cred that we actually had a Wikipedia page. It was mainly drawing on the fact that I had been a Narcotic Gypsy, and that was enough of a reason to have one. It's not up there anymore. Don't bother looking for it or anything like that, because it's not important enough anymore, so they took it down. But I had, one of the things about it was that the stated goal was that we were forming this just to write and record and release music. And I'll never forget this, because one of the Wikipedia editors, actually, who was responsible for taking the page down, who made a snide comment about it, is like, well, what other things do you do in a band? And I actually answered him back. I was like, well, dickus, the main thing bands do is they actually go out on the road for a really long time for really very little money and very little, anything to financially back them up. And I had already done that instead of sat behind my computer typing on Wikipedia, dick. And that was basically it for the G Davy page. But yeah, so we had done, 2003, we played one show, and it was a absolutely packed house. Not for us. It was packed because it just was. And that was the first time that I'd gone on stage with a brand new band in some very long time. And that was 20 years ago. And the next kind of thing that I had would have been in 2008, where G Davy played again except it was my very first show as the lead singer. I'd never done it before. We took an opening slot at Ollie's Point, which would eventually... No, sorry, excuse me. It was still Molly Bloom's 2. It wasn't even Ollie's Point yet. Ollie's Point would eventually go on to become Revolution, just so you know. Stage was in a completely different place. The stage was actually kind of where the green room was, if you're familiar with that, at Revolution. But we played. I took an 8 o'clock show on a Saturday, and we booked it through Patty Dodge, who I had never met. It was the first time working with her, and she was like, I like the way you guys sound. We did have, because we wrote and released material, so we did have songs out, and Patty gave us a shot because Patty's very cool. Aside from the fact that Patty will book almost anybody, like, she's really good at just giving you a shot and putting you in a bad slot until you've earned a better slot. Like, you know, that's, to me, that's the way music should be. Like, you shouldn't really just base stuff on your, you know, draw and stuff like that. Like, you need to earn a better, like, you want to headline a show, earn it. Like, really earn it. Because what's happened is when you headline shows just because you can draw like a few hundred people doesn't mean you're very good. It means you have a few hundred people that'll come see you. And I talked last week about the difference between a friend base and a fan base. And I was saying it specifically in regards to a lot of younger bands, because bands under 30, generally speaking, have a large friend base that will eventually abandon you because they're going out because they need stuff to do, stuff to occupy their time. When they get a little bit older than that, people make real sacrifices to come out and see you. And I know that because that's what my fan base is now. Yes, I am absolutely friends with some of our fans, and that is fantastic and just a complete bonus of that. But, like, I don't think that people just come to Revel 9 shows out of sheer loyalty to our friendship. Like, I think that's out. I think they come because they have a good time. They come because the other people that come are awesome. And they come because we play with a lot of other good bands that they also want to see. And I feel like that's the better reason to come see a show. But I am just segueing off a cliff here, because what I wanted to say is that was the other time I had a first kind of show. I sang lead vocals for the very first time in my life. I want to say it was like May of 2008. We played with a couple bands, and it was just fun, and I was scared as hell, and I had a lighting issue, and the sound guy, who would go on to basically be a lifelong friend, Mike Festa, saw that I was having trouble because I couldn't see my frets while I was singing, because this is not something I was used to. We rehearsed with full light, and he actually hooked me up and gave me one of his desk lights so I could kind of see, and, like, it was just so much going on. But the point was, like, I had nerves for days, for weeks. I was super, super nervous. I was not a very good singer. You could argue whether or not I became a good singer in all that time, but, like, I was not a very good singer then. I was hoarse. I blew my voice out very quickly. I was certainly very pitchy, and I was nervous as all hell. And that was actually what Jimmy was talking about being nervous and how it kind of feels kind of good. You know, it's not free lines of cocaine good, but it's like, you know, maybe we'll get cocaine after the show good. Like, if that puts it in any perspective whatsoever, it was like, it's exciting. You know, it's exciting to do that. It dries the throat, it races the heart, all those good things that'll probably kill us all in the end. But, like, it's a fun thing to feel. And I was happy for my friend that he got to experience that. And that was cool. And by all accounts, like, Bacon Is My Passion did a great job. Unfortunately, I was playing right after them, so of course I was, you know, moving gear and setting up and all that other stuff. But, like, everything I heard was good. I got to see the beginnings of it, and that was awesome. Waterbury and Joey Nunn did a great job as their backing band. I guess there would be the Bimp Tones, I would imagine they would be referred to. I don't know. Like, they added a horn section if you do that. Mike and Jim in the Bimp Tones. I would definitely, like, if they sat Joey and Chris behind those, like, cardboard boxes that you saw, like, on the old shows and stuff, like, get a saxophone player, like, you know, it could have been, like, totally the Bimp Tones. Bimp and the Bimp Tones. I don't know. It's just a suggestion. I have lots of them, and rarely are they good, to be perfectly honest with you. So I don't know how many of those I would actually take. But that long-ass explanation is a suggestion for you to catch the Discussions and Drinks on Strangerhood TV, the Bacon Is My Podcast release from just yesterday, and check out all the other good things there. And I have now talked about way too much. I was going to talk about Tommy Tuberville and what an absolute scumbag he is. He's a U.S. Senator from somewhere in the Deep South who's basically putting our country at national security level risk because he doesn't like the Pentagon's policy on reimbursing service women for travel expenses if they have to go out of state to get an abortion. So he's holding up hundreds of promotions to important positions in our armed forces because he doesn't like something. He's a douchebag. And any single time you have a senator that puts his personal belief ahead of the good of the country, you have to take a real good look at everything that's going on and why he's there and which party voted for him, by the way. Because we do have an election day coming up Tuesday, right? In just less than a week. I know almost nothing about the candidates, except I did get a flyer about Ed Romaine, who's running for Suffolk County executive. And all I know about him is that he is in charge of Brookhaven, the town of Brookhaven, which has been famously dubbed Crookhaven because it's so crooked and so corrupt, it makes Huntington look like everything is running just fine. And the whole pitch is about how he's going to bring integrity back to the office. I'm like, you don't get to run a county called Crookhaven and talk about integrity. If that's your job and that's your gig and you're running for something bigger, you got to be like, Ed Romaine, I promise to do a better job. Like, that's what I would lead with, and I'd be done. But I don't have anything to offer otherwise on politics. I do know that they raised taxes in the town of Brookhaven in the past 8 years in a row, and he's all of a sudden going to lower taxes for Suffolk County. I feel like that's what a lie sounds like, and I guess any party that would put up somebody like George Santos to run for Congress doesn't really care if you're being truthful. So I don't know how you guys are voting on Tuesday. I just know that one party consistently lies about what they're going to do, what they've done, and all that other stuff. And as much as I don't like the Democrats constantly just bowing to the ultra-left, at least they don't lie about it. And I feel like that's a much bigger thing. It's a much bigger issue to me. So, I don't know. That's just my 17 cents. I've got some data to remember, but it's a cover. So, I don't know if I'm helping or hurting. And honestly, who cares? I don't.